Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee. But he needed to go through Samaria. John chapter 4, verses 1 to 4. Chapter 1. Talia had put the moment off for long enough. She had dusted the same shelf 3 times since morning. She looked around the room one last time, hoping to find something else to busy herself with, but knew it was no use. With a sigh, she resigned herself to the task ahead. She walked slowly toward the window and peered through the lattice, berating herself for feeling this way. She was a grown woman after all, and who were they to judge her anyway? It was her life. Yet right now, standing in the shadows cast by the sun, hiding in her own home, she felt like a child, fearful of bullies lurking in hidden alleys. As the sun's rays streaked through the trellis, a shard of light bounced off a small bronze mirror lying in the corner of a shelf and caught her eye. It had been a gift from her mother. She thought she had given it away, like so many other little trinkets from her past that brought back painful memories. Yet there it was, gathering dust. She walked toward it and picked it up, tracing her finger over the decorative handle with a pained smile. She slowly lifted it up to her face, almost dreading what she would see. The face staring back at her was one she hardly recognized. She stretched out her fingers and reached out to it, as if searching for something or someone. How had her life come to this? She had tried so many times to retrace her steps to the moment she had lost her way, lost her worth, lost her joy. But she couldn't. It was all a blur. The sound of a door opening yanked her out of her thoughts. It was Jonas, back from his morning rounds. She quickly placed the mirror back in its corner and pretended to straighten some utensils on the shelf. It was only then that she noticed her moist cheeks. She hastily wiped the tears away. No doubt Jonas would have a field day if he saw her crying again. "Back so soon?" she asked over her shoulder, while making sure there was no trace of emotion, of brokenness on her face. Before he had a chance to answer or take notice of her, Talia walked over to the empty clay pots in the corner. "I'm off," she said, as she picked up one of the pots and headed towards the door. But there was no fooling Jonas. He folded his arms and nonchalantly leaned his shoulder against one of the wooden pillars that separated the kitchen from the living area. He watched her hesitantly reach for the door. "How long will you let people's opinions rule you, Talia? You're a little too old to be so sensitive, don't you think?" He smirked, helping himself to a small plate of figs drizzled with honey. An avalanche of choice words filled her mind and rolled onto the tip of her tongue. Biting down, she took a deep breath and carried on as if he hadn't said a thing. "I won't be long," she quipped, and closed the door behind her with more force than intended. Talia stood outside the door trying to calm her whirling emotions. She could already feel a headache coming on. She wished she could just retreat into the shadows of her house, But she didn't have the strength to have another empty conversation with Jonas, listening to his lofty reasonings about being the master of her own fate. Funny how it was those same empty conversations that had intrigued her, lured her into this pit of loneliness and despair.